Authority meeting for February 2020. Do we have a quorum?
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Sloan?
Here.
Mr. Pintuck?
Here.
Ms. Dearden?
Here.
DB is not present yet, but he should be in attendance. You do have a quorum.
Okay, good. All right, did everyone get a chance to review the minutes from the January 15th meeting?
Mm-hmm.
Madam Chairman, Chairwoman, I asked
Just chair.
to move to approve the minutes.
I second that.
Do we have any discussion? Any changes?
The only change, the only thing that I would say is that DB said he didn't want to, we confirmed he did not want to be the treasurer.
Well, that's under
Okay,
B.
So
yeah,
we'll talk
okay,
about
we'll,
that, right?
we'll move on to that
All right.
when we talk about the election. All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. No opposed? All right, minutes are approved. On to scheduled matters. We have a treasurer's report.
Yes, it's provided. Hi, come on in.
Sorry.
Yeah, you okay? It was provided a few minutes before the meeting, so I don't know if Mr.
Smith
Smith.
wants to address what's going on.
Has
The only
some
thing
time
that
to
I
look at it.
see, the only change that I see, or only activity that I see is the 219 Capital One Hardywood rebate.
Yeah, so the county has provided that money to your account. It has not been paid because it has not been approved yet, and we will get into that later.
Okay,
But it has not come out of your account yet.
right.
And if
Okay.
it does not come out, it will be returned back to the county.
Okay, so this is different from the pass-through. This is an actual tax rebate
The
for the,
Hardywood, no, it's a pass-through from the county
all right, okay.
to Hardywood, right.
Okay. Okay, because I think I just signed that check.
You signed a Capital One check.
Oh, not the Hardywood. Okay.
Correct.
All right.
There's two, yeah.
All right.
So there's two here, right? There's a
Yeah,
Capital
the-
One check,
Mhm.
201,000.
And
The
that one is,
Hardywood pass-through,
Correct.
45,000.
the Capital One check has been authorized.
Okay,
Yes, okay, got it.
very good.
Madam Chair, are we going into closed session today?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
And then I guess we can come back to ask Stevie if we have any other questions, if he doesn't, thanks. But as we do not have to vote on the treasurer's report, we'll move on for now.
Madam Chair, one quick question. Did we already approve Essex going into the LGIP?
Yeah.
We
I
did?
think we did, yeah.
Yeah,
We did.
because we
Okay.
withdrew the funds from the one,
Right.
from the one account and closed it,
Correct.
and it's already been deposited into LGIP.
And doing well.
And
Yeah.
the other one's coming up in March.
March.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering if we had already approved that one to be.
We approved that, I believe, last year, but that we would wait until
Okay.
the term, maturity.
Correct.
So you wouldn't get a
incur any
fee.
Right, it's up on March 27th.
So then I believe we have to wait 10 days before the end of March, after the end of March to actually close.
So I can't remember if there has to be a notification before. Can't remember. No? No.
We already approved it.
Okay.
Do you wanna double check the minutes?
I
just to
can.
Make sure that would've.
Mhm.
You might have to go back before last meeting.
Mhm.
I believe it was over the summer that we actually.
Yeah.
We addressed it all at the same time, did we not?
Right.
We approved it all, moved
Sometime in
it,
the
one
fall, I
wait
believe.
until it was
Right.
time. Okay, so.
Okay, so Sarah's gonna double check on that just to make sure, thank you, yeah. On to the election of officers.
Yeah, Mark and I met in December and spoke together about what we'd like to see, and what we decided to submit to the board is that Lisa Dearden would remain as chair for a year. I would stay at vice for a year, and that DB would be a treasurer for a year unless he did not want that post, and Mark offered to take it.
Okay.
Sorry.
DB, welcome.
Okay, thank you for coming. We were just at the, election of officers and,
Oh, okay.
so we will need a motion to move forward with that slate?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Oh, any discussion at all? Did you hear what the slate was?
I think I will.
Thank you.
Uh,
It hasn't changed.
Yeah. hasn't-
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you for serving, again, on the board. Next item on the agenda is Goochland Day, and we have some guests. Would you like to introduce yourself and go ahead and present?
Yes, thank you. So I'm Elizabeth Nelson Lida. Thank you for having us here today. I came and presented to you last year as well. And I wanted to give you a presentation and some updates. This is Michelle.
Hello.
I'll let you all introduce yourselves.
Oh,
How about
thank you.
that? Okay.
Hi, Michelle Eman. I'm on the committee for Goochland Day. I'm on the parade committee. I'm on the sponsor committee. I'm on the vendor committee.
We have a lot of committees.
A lot of committees. And it's my first year. I volunteered last year, but I wasn't on the committee last year, but I helped them. And I was very happy to see how many people actually came out for the day. Thankfully, Elizabeth was there to help me because I was the ticket person. And at one point, we had about 50 people in line, and I was like, I can't do this alone. So I'm looking forward to this year's. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Carrie Stagg, nice to meet everybody. It's my first year too on the committee. I know that Elizabeth is looking for board members, so I think that we're going to talk about that down the road. I would like to be more involved with Goochland Day. I need to pick up my slack, though, myself, on the sponsorship committee, but we appreciate you guys taking the time to hear us.
Yes, thank you very much. So I will go ahead and I hope you have the packet. I had submitted a packet to you all. I'll go through my presentation, and the committee members will answer the questions if you have any questions for us. So Goochland Day is this is the third year of Goochland Day. It is hosted by the GHS PTSA. As Carrie has alluded to, the event is actually growing into its own animal now. So we're talking about setting up a Goochland Day Foundation to put on the event every year, and to collaborate with the county resources for the execution, because it does require a lot of collaboration with the county and a lot of cost from the county to collaborate with us. We had discussed at some point turning it over to the county, and part of the heartburn there is it's such a big event, and there's so much interest in it that you know it really needs to be a community collaboration with Goochland County and all of the Goochland County resources if this is what the county wants to do, the county being the constituents of the county. And so we've seen a tremendous amount of interest for the event itself. Right now we are collaborating with Goochland County itself. Derek Stamey is on our committee. Goochland County Fire and Rescue. Chief Ferguson appointed the local fire chief captain, David Dowdy, who is running the parade and the incident action plan for the parade. Goochland County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Creasy appointed Deputy Patrol Lieutenant Joe Warren is also on our committee. And he is for logistics, traffic control, that kind of thing. And we also have Goochland County Public Schools. Dr. Rayleigh and Dr. Collier are on the committee, and Dr. Collier normally represents for Dr. Rayleigh. So this year it is Saturday, May 9th. It follows the normal traditional day before Mother's Day. There is a 5K that is 100% led by GYAA. We're very thankful that they agreed to allow their 5K to occur on the same day. It would help their event, helps our event. If everybody is doing lots of things on the same day, it makes it a really big county-wide event. There is a parade. We do have a parade route. I didn't include it in here, so I'll just tell you what it is. It starts down at the Swans Inn is the staging area. We have permission, apparently, as I understood from the fire chief and the county, to do staging in that area. So it comes up Route 6, and it will turn right here onto Dickinson Road, and go by the YMCA, and the spill out point and the ending point is Reynolds Community College.
Where is Swansea?
Right across from Parish Ford, the new subdivision that they built.
And we already have our parade participants. We closed that January 27th. That was run by Goochland County Fire Rescue. And I believe Chief Daddy told me that they do have additional applicants that come in, but we have just an incredible assortment of people participating in the parade.
Great.
And lots of horses, apparently.
We have
in cars.
horses, we have Shriners, we have high school bands, middle school bands,
Yeah.
Floats.
Yep.
So it's going to be, and then of course the sheriff's department and fire departments, and we have 40 entrants already, and that does not include the fire department or the sheriff's department. We're inviting Louisa, Powhatan, Hanover. We're trying to keep it small, and Fluvanna, I think. So we're keeping it down to like a 60 entry limit for the parade. We want it to start small so that we didn't feel out of control and panicked. So 60 seemed big, but it's actually a very small parade, and it should take about an hour
Right.
to run through.
And the judging booth is being sponsored by Blue Ridge Custom Homes, and it will be set up in the Norman Funeral Home parking lot. So they're building like a big stand so that people
It's
stop
official.
and get judged in front of it, apparently. So, yeah, I thought that was fantastic. We also have Michelle Nixon and Slate River Unplugged performing at 2:30 in the afternoon. And there are a couple other of smaller musical events that are going to be performing. Terry Hazelton is chairing the music committee for us, of course, and the equipment necessary to execute that. And he's working with Derek Stamey to make sure that that's positioned and placed properly. So I'm done with this slide, sorry. So historically, Goochland Day was held annually, Saturday before Mother's Day, doing it again, Saturday before Mother's Day, included a parade, vendors, music, and food, and it brought the community together. So what I understood is people just kind of walked all over the place and went to vendor booths and different things. It was on the courthouse green. It might have been towards Reynolds at one point, and lots of horses and just a nice family fun day. So we wanted to bring, the original idea to bring this back was lots and lots of people in Goochland have been talking about Goochland Day. If you ever go onto social media, that's a big topic of discussion on Goochland moms regularly, and one of the biggest complaints was the lack of a parade on our reboot, which of course we're now going to have, thankfully. But we were looking for an event at the high school level that would be a flagship event that would foster camaraderie and giving within the community. And it's something for the community. So that's what we're really trying to do. That's what we're focusing on. Goochland itself is asking for Goochland Day, and we have actually seen year over year substantial growth, and we expect no less this year. I'll tell you a little bit about the statistics that we have. So in Goochland Day, the first Goochland Day that we rebooted was May 5th, 2018. It was a small location. It included vendors, food, knocker ball, some different things to happen for the children. We had assistance from Parks and Rec. And we started discussing with the county, with the county administrator in 2017, doing this. But we wanted to bring this event back. And it was a good event. We didn't keep very good statistics for that year. But we did learn that we started Goochland Day too early with not enough going on. And it wasn't on the traditional day. So there wasn't any big draw, in other words. Those are lessons that we learned that year. Last year, did I skip over a year?
No.
I think okay. So, last year, the event was substantially bigger. We held it at the middle school and the high school complex, and it was it was a huge success.
It was.
With standing room only. We did get, again, assistance from Parks and Rec with tables and chairs, that kind of thing. We showed significant growth over the prior year based on the numbers that we were ticking and tallying for vendors and attendance at the food trucks. We came up with a number of 3,500 people, plus the tickets that we had sold in advance and the tickets that we sold while we were there. And we just continued to grow the event. We had lots of participation, state police, sheriff's office, fire rescue, of course. These are pictures that we had hired a photographer last year to take pictures. We had a train. The train was a big hit with the children, and we'll have the train again this year. Last year, a week before the event, approximately a week before the event, we had 14,500 hits to the page. Just the statistics of how many people are seeing and viewing your information was 14,500. And there were 1,200 interested or attending. And so that kind of makes sense with our attendance, because normally if there's 1,200 people, that's normally a parent, and it's either a parent and another parent, or a parent and their kids, or two parents and two kids. So that's how that number gets turned around quite quickly into a larger number, by the way. Okay. And Goochland Day this year, general information and the budget on that. By the way, that's our mechanical bull being ridden last year. And it's on a springy, bouncy platform.
Yeah.
You have to sign a waiver before you can ride the bull, obviously. We did provide a budget to you, the different budget scenarios that we have. It's quite a large budget. And of course, the purpose of Goochland Day is not to make money. It is to put on an event that showcases all of the businesses and opportunities in Goochland and pull the community together, and really showcase all of the not-for-profits as well. So we have, CASA is participating, Goochland Cares is going to be participating.
The
Historical Society is participating, state police, fire rescue, bands. Anybody who can make that their day, we want them to do that. We're currently sitting at page hits since January 7th of 51,200, which is more than twice the number of people in the county. Right? And we already have 2,191 interested or attending the event, and we're still 3 months out from the event. So right now we're looking about an anticipated attendance, obviously based on last year, 3,500. But if we take the number based on how far we are out, we expect about 10,000 people to come through. So essentially half of the county is what we think right now.
Which is awesome.
It is awesome, isn't it? So what we're looking for, we are looking for support, a sponsorship support. What we're trying to do is also make this event as free as possible to the attendees, particularly the families with children. That was the complaint that we got last year, is we sold wristbands. And people who had multiple children felt like it was an undue hardship, or that their kids were being excluded because we were charging for the bands.
The
to
bands
cover
cost
costs.
$20 for unlimited jumpy house jumps, or train was train part of it?
And the train was part of it.
Part of it, so they could do that all day. But if you have 5 children, and that does not include the vendors, of buying food for them, lunch, snacks, or whatever. So it with the bigger families, and there are quite a few in the county, it is a very big cost. So when Elizabeth told everybody that, we're going to try to make this as free as possible, I thought that was a really good idea, especially for families. And all they would have to spend money on would be food, anything for the nonprofits, for like face paintings, or bead making for bracelets, or or even crafts, vendors that do their own crafts and all that stuff, and they would be able to promote themselves better. So
really what, we wanted to, and I did present to the committee and say, here are different scenarios and this is what they look like. I'd really like to make the event as free as possible. They did vote on this, by the way, to do that, to endeavor to do that if we raise enough money, so that we're not charging the children, because if people are coming out and you know, John and Mary are happy on the bounceables and doing their thing and playing, then mom and dad can buy stuff from vendors and can contribute to the not-for-profits that are raising. They're more willing to spend that money, just so that makes sense, and invest in the
I was
community.
there last year with my son. He was 7.5, and he talked me into food and the wristband. So
Yeah.
He got you.
Yeah, just let you know.
Yeah.
That's a better word.
Yes.
Suckered me into it.
Suckered you into
Yeah,
it.
so you know it can be expensive, right? So, you know, we want everybody to be able to engage and participate. 4-H is coming. 4-H is actually taking six the booth slots from us. They're bringing they're bringing cows, chickens, rabbits, and then we have a pig rescue that's bringing pigs. And
You
then
can go home with a pig.
yeah.
Be prepared.
Do not offer it to my son.
Now I know
Yeah.
what you look like.
Make a note.
Otherwise, that may happen.
And of course, we have special rules for hand washing and safety and that kind of thing. SB Cox is donating porta potties and hand washing stations for us, so that's a wonderful thing. We also have the Native American horseback riders that are bringing the horses, participating in the parade, and then riding through various areas. We haven't figured out exactly where, so people can see the horses and participate and engage. Sorry, Gina. Thank you. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a sponsorship donation. We have, I believe, it's well within. It's, what is the right way to say this? We're not asking for 25% of the event. We're asking for your cap, which I believe is approximately 8% of our total budget. Ish. Which is the $2,500. Gina Saunders has joined us. She takes care of lots of things for us. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself. Do you want to introduce yourself? No, she said no.
She's Gina.
She's Gina.
She takes care
She
of
likes to
booking all of the
pretend she's
bounceables, setting up vendors. Things so far are relatively on target. We do have some in-kind donations. The county's fees, I don't know if you saw those in the budget, but the county's fees are more than $10,000, half of which are donated. There are real and tangible costs from the county. The cost of fire rescue and the cost of the sheriff's department and his personnel are not, I mean, there's real costs for this, and it is a long event.
Insurance.
Insurances, the list just goes on and on and on. All of the applications have been properly submitted and vetted by Derek Stamey. I made sure that Mr. Stamey had all of those.
Do you charge for the concert?
We do not intend to charge. We're endeavoring to make it as free as possible. The reason that we talked about not charging, if we have to charge, if we're not hitting our sponsorship goals and we're evaluating it, our next meeting is March the 4th at the firehouse. We have about 40 people on the committee, and we all review where we are. Mm-hmm. It is a big committee, and there's lots of subcommittees because there's lots of moving parts.
Lots.
We will reevaluate where we are before we make any public statements. There are no public statements saying that it's a free event at this point in time. We are endeavoring to make it as low cost as possible. Our goal is to make it free. The concert was challenging because separating the space on Napa Field would be difficult per the county administration to isolate it from preventing other people from entering the area.
And with music being played, you have people that didn't pay for it and they're still hearing it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that was kind of a hard thing to say, well, how can we charge if everybody's going to be walking around still and
Mm-hmm.
listening to the music as well?
So we've tried to come about it another way is we're looking for a music sponsor, right? So someone who sponsors this band or someone who sponsors that band.
When are you asking for these funds by? That is, when do you need approval?
We need approval information back from you by April, early April.
And you're looking strictly for a donation as opposed to any type of grant or repayment? Let's say if expenses don't exceed revenues, like they haven't in the past, that none of that money would come back to the EDA.
That is correct.
Okay. Is the Chamber of Commerce involved?
No, sir.
Is the county, I noticed the
We're not on our
expenses.
list.
It is on our list, but at this point in time, they're not involved.
Is the county itself, I don't see it on expenses or revenue, I mean, expenses, obviously the county. Is the county actually involved in any money coming forth also?
No, sir.
And I'll yield my time.
Good questions.
May I add to this, though?
Please.
Former Board of Supervisors member Manuel Alvarez, who was working with me to do presentations previously with Mr. Budesky, is writing a letter requesting, as I have already requested and as I have requested for the last 3 years, that it be added to the county budget, which is the county's sticking point on why they are not providing financial assistance to the event. So we now have to fundraise to cover the half non-in-kind portion of the county's fees. And don't get me wrong, I do understand there are real costs involved.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But if it were budgeted for and a clearly successful event.
Madam Chair, looking at the Code of Virginia, and I can see interpretation where this is not outside the bounds of the code. I'm trying to formulate a motion at this point, but I'd like to hear further typically have a motion then discussion. So I'll suggest that at this point that the Economic Development Authority provide a grant to the Goodwill Day Committee with the constraint that any excess profits up to the amount granted above 2,500 be paid back to the EDA at the completion. Did that make any sense at all?
That way, if they turn a profit, they have to pay some of it back.
Right.
Is there a second?
I second that I had some questions. What did we do last year? Did we talk?
$1,000.
$1,000. We're going up
Donation.
$1,500 more. And it's a grant unless it's been said there's a profit, get paid back. That's essentially the deal.
Right.
Madam Chair, I put that out there as a point of legal discussion on the matter.
Does anybody else have any discussion about it?
Last question, the food trucks.
Yes, sir.
The success last year? I mean, it's
Yes,
kind
sir.
of it's kind of a measure of an event like that.
Mhm.
If they get a good crowd, are they coming back?
Yes, sir.
But there were a lot of food trucks there. At
Mhm.
first I was like, oh, there's a lot of food trucks. You gotta
Mhm.
make
And
sure
we
they
actually
make
have
money,
more
but they
coming
all
this
were
year.
happy.
And
we're,
we have a coffee truck
and a coffee truck's
really?
for
coming.
the 5K.
Fried strawberries are coming.
After the run, right?
Well, whatever gets you
Before
motivated.
that. I need coffee before a run.
But we have all types. We don't want any type of competition, so we have a broad range of types of food coming. So
Most of them
Mexican-
from within the county.
Yeah, and we're trying to keep it as local as we possibly can with local vendors, local food trucks, and so one of the newer food trucks, Chow, the mobile kitchen, they're super excited. They have all types of food. They have sliders, they have empanadas, they have tacos, they have the best brownies you'll ever have, and French fries. So, because who doesn't like French fries?
Well, that's what Goochland's known for, is their French fries.
French fries.
Yeah.
I've had a fight for those before.
Yeah.
At the high school, I got the French fryer at the high school because they shut us down our senior year.
Yeah.
So we had to put a whole system in, the concession stand.
And the economic development payoff for this is,
So I really think the Economic Development Authority, if I'm not mistaken, is part of what you do, and what you're promoting is business in Goochland. So we are showcasing business in Goochland, and this provides you a platform, albeit, yes, it's expensive. Is it expensive? Yes, it's expensive. But if you look at the budget, the event is very expensive to put on. It provides a platform to show that the Goochland Economic Development Authority is promoting those local businesses and those local opportunities.
they're promoting through the booths and through the sponsorships and any other way we're promoting Goochland businesses?
So the Goochland businesses are actually, for example, we are partnering with Easy Ship, which is a local small business, to do the signage again. I'm squeezing him deeply for cost. Because it is very expensive, I realize, and I've said to Stratford, you are a small business, I totally understand that. But we're talking about a lot of signage, and we're talking about a lot of money. So anywhere I can save money and squeeze it, and he's also agreed to squeeze a little bit more if he can make his business name prominently on his things. So we're looking at, we have to have at least $17,500 in sponsorships, in cold cash sponsorships, to make the event work the way that we want it to work.
What do you have right now?
4,000.
When's the drop dead date if you don't have the 17?
Actually, I think it's set for 2 weeks before the event. And we have some good we have identified a list, including you all, with values per sponsor, to reach that goal. And we have a sponsorship committee that is splitting up the list and adding to the list and filling in the list. We have done things. I have personally reached out to every board of supervisors and every school board member to provide a $200 contribution personally to Goochland Day. Delegate Lee Ware is providing, as he is normally very reliable, for a $250 donation. And we have people who have just wound down their political campaigns. I have asked them to consider making donations. I'm working it every way I can from that angle.
I'm going to touch base back with the local businesses. So keep in mind the parade starts all the way down by Parish Ford, and you're going to have a ton of people lined up on both sides of the street on 6th, and you do have local businesses there. To give you a good example of the feeling that they have, I talked to Parish Ford, and at first they were taken aback that they weren't going to get any customers for about an hour on a Saturday morning. And I said, oh, but let's look at it differently. You're going to have a ton of people standing in front of your business for over an hour, and that's where you can communicate. You can go up and talk to them and make small talk. But every business, we feel, is going to benefit from this parade. So if you look at the food marts, or Goochland Courthouse Pizza or the Goochland Restaurant, they can come out and even offer stuff out on the sidewalk if you want to, or or even offer specials inside if they need to. So it's a good way for them to showcase what they do and what they love.
Have any of those donated are any of those sponsors?
I have not reached out to them as of yet. I'm afraid that if we go in there and say, by the way, we're going to take away your business for a while because no traffic will be coming through here. But on the same sense, can you give us money? If they're, hopefully they will still make money, but I'm afraid that if we go in there and say, you're not going to get your foot traffic, your car traffic like you normally do, but there are going to be a ton of people here.
But you're allowing them to go out and peddle their wares.
Oh, definitely. We told River Road
So a
Cottage.
pizza place can sell pizza. Parish Ford can give flyers away for discounts.
And it's only an
Sidewalk
hour,
sales.
so I think that by the
Right.
time the people get parked and settled, then I can't imagine how much business they're actually losing.
Right.
If they're not gaining any.
Because if you think about the numbers that we're expecting, and we're not really clear who's going to come to what part of the day. Having 10,000 people moving through this area in a 8-hour period is a significant volume of traffic. We have already made provision for the middle school, high school parking lots and school buses to be run as shuttles to prevent overcrowding or dangerous parking in the courthouse area. But there will be a lot of foot traffic and a lot of physical bodies, and there are a lot of vendors. Believe it or not, we have some of the most interesting vendors that are like smaller businesses that are in Goochland, all the little soap companies and that kind of thing. You know, the people who are doing, you know, the third-party type things. But we also have insurance brokers and financial advisors and things that are coming that are part of Goochland Day to try to expand their businesses.
And the chamber's not any part of this at all?
No, sir.
And have they been pitched on it?
I know we talked about pitching Joanne Dabney specifically.
Or just making all the
Bonnie
members aware?
Creasy.
Yeah.
Bonnie Creasy.
Oh, is it?
It's
Sorry,
Bonnie, yeah.
Bonnie.
Okay.
You mentioned Goochland County, the in-kind contribution of $5,365 in difference to the line items you've got listed below in the expenses. Is that just in-kind, may have missed it when you were talking about it earlier, is that just in-kind work that county staff was involved
Yes.
in?
Mm-hmm.
And what was the date you need from us? You wanted to know?
April. The first week of April, if it's possible.
So that would be the March meeting, right?
Okay, well, we have a motion on the table, and we have a second. Any more discussion, questions?
Madam Chair, you were getting ready to say something, I was gonna move the table.
Yeah, I'd like to discuss it. Amongst, you know, a little bit. Not necessarily the actual donation to this group, just a process.
So, Madam Chair, I move the table until our next meeting, the motion.
Do we have a second?
I say.
Any
But we can
other-
give you an answer in plenty of time, next.
Yeah,
middle of
absolutely.
March, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right. So let's vote on tabling the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll
I-
abstain.
I'd be interested to know at the next meeting, we meet in March, you could have if you could just bring an actual budget, or actual donations, anything you've raised.
Okay.
Up to the point of our next meeting, which is March 18th.
19.
Right.
Oh, wait, oh, hold on. Sorry, March 18th.
March 18th.
March 18th.
Yeah, right.
Same time?
Yes.
Yes.
You would like it
You
to
don't
s-
have to be here, you can
Yeah,
just
can
submit
we-
it to us so we know.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation. We have done a lot of work.
It has been an incredible endeavor so far. Can I explain? I just wanted to throw this out for you too, just so you would have this. Because it is relevant information. Did I include the sponsorship flyer in there?
Yes.
Yes,
Oh, so you can see what you would get for the $2,500?
that would be the last page of the
Yes.
packet.
Okay, just making sure. So just making sure that you understood what you would be getting for it.
So we would be coming in at the gold level? If we did the 2,500?
I think it's 2,500 is platinum.
Okay, platinum.
Wow.
Got it.
That makes a difference.
Platinum's much better than gold.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, ladies.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time,
I know it's a ton of work.
but it's worth it.
Yes.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Thank you.
Thanks. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Going back, I think we skipped over the citizen comment period. Citizens that we've had in the room are leaving, but I do want want to open it up, and seeing there be no more citizens, I'm gonna go ahead and close that and go on to the 2019 annual report.
Madam Chair, thank you very much.
Can we just talk about them before?
Oh, sure.
I would just, the actual budget last year, total money raised was $8,000 some dollars. So 2,500 would be in excess of what we're allowed to give. Just throwing that out. They have $4,000 now. They're gonna come up probably well shy of what they're looking for. So I'd just say that
What was their total
we.
again that they were looking for?
17.5?
Yeah, 17.5, and they want us to do 2,500. That would, that's great. If they get 17.5, great, but I don't know that that's gonna happen. And the fact they wanna make it free, if you charge $1, you get $10,000. I mean, so, there's a lot of ways to look at it, but, and I don't wanna be a penny pincher, but if they raise $8,000, we can't give them $2,500.
Yeah. Good point. Well spotted. So, we'll look at how much they
Yeah,
raised.
just,
in
that's why
March.
I'd be interested to know what they actually have by the time we have to come.
And we've got plenty of time to do that. She said 2 weeks, but then she said kind of 4 weeks. But anyway, our March meeting will be well in time for them to.
Okay, that's all I
All right,
had.
thanks.
Okay, thank you for that, appreciate it. All right.
Good?
Yes.
Madam Chair, members of the authority, every year, we actually give a presentation to the Board of Supervisors. And let me take a quick step back. Every department provides an annual report of some nature to the Board of Supervisors, and they're separated out every month throughout the entire year if you follow the Board of Supervisors packets. I do a public utilities presentation in June, July timeframe, a community development presentation usually around September, and at the beginning of this month, we actually gave the economic development presentation to the board. And we were asked when we wanted to give that, either by fiscal year, by calendar year, so pros and cons to both. But it's our understanding that the state does a lot of their numbers, a lot of their calculations near the end of the year, so it made a lot more sense for us to do a calendar year report sometime in the January, February timeframe. And just so happened, it happened to be February based on other departments and how they have presentations. Because again, everyone gives a presentation from social services to all the other departments, Parks and Rec, operations. So we try to parse them out appropriately amongst the 12 months of the year. So we gave our presentation at the beginning of the month, and we wanted to present it to you because you're heavily involved in it. The largest chunk of this presentation references the strategic plan and all the work that we've done associated with it. But before I get into it, Sarah, you got the infographic?
Yes.
We provided this to the Board of Supervisors. This is one of many infographics that we have, and I'll go a little more in detail in the presentation, but it's really just a high-level calendar year review of what we've done this past year. So, and as I'm going through the presentation, if you have any questions, by all means, just let me know. The first thing we started with.
Pardon me, real quick.
Oh, sure.
65 million means annual revenue of the aggregate of the new active leads, correct?
If we were to land every single project, that's the amount of investment they would make into Goochland County.
Oh, so that's investment, that's
Mhm.
not their annual revenue?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So the one thing we want to start out with, and as you've seen in the strategic plan that we have, and the board adopted it as well, we were very purposeful in our vision statement that we have. We wanted to be very purposeful in how we presented that, and if you recall when we discussed the strategic plan with you, we wanted to not just talk about the commercial growth and the business growth that we have in the county, because it's a little bit more than that, more specifically the agricultural side. So we felt, and with your approval and with the Board of Supervisors approval, that this was a pretty good vision statement that marries all the things together that we felt were very important. And with any vision statement, it's really supported by the mission statement. All this is in the strategic plan, but we wanted to make sure that not just in this presentation to the Board of Supervisors, because any presentation to them is also a presentation to the citizens. There's citizens that are sitting and listening that may have not have heard this before. They can also streamline it at home, just like anyone can be streaming this presentation now. But we also wanted to talk to them a little bit about the mission statement and mention that it's focused on new business, existing business, tourism, workforce development. And why we mention that is because there is sometimes a perception that economic development is just the next big thing, the next big box store, the next Amazon or something, but it's so much more than just getting that new business. It's about business growth, it's about relationships, it's about workforce development. We wanted to make sure we tailored this presentation appropriately. The next slide we have, we felt was very important to let the board know that when I took over the Economic Development Department, it was about a year and a half ago. Sarah, a few months after that. Casey's been with us a little over a year. These are all the things that we've done just in the past year. All the boards we've attended, all the memberships that we have. We really stepped up our game when it came to our interaction with the Chamber of Commerce. And that was first, I put that first on there for a reason, is because our relationship with them, from what they've expressed to us, wasn't all that good because we didn't really attend their meetings. So once I took over, I started attending the meetings. They said, thank you for attending the meeting. Nobody had attended for whoever knows how long. And we attend everything that they have now, all their events, fundraising, the blind auction that they have, and they've been very appreciative of our interaction. I'm on the Capital Region, I'm a voting member on the Capital Region Workforce Development Board. Casey represents us on CREW, the Commercial Real Estate for Women. But this is just a small snippet of some of the things that we've done just in the past year and a half, and we're very proud of our interaction and relationships with these organizations.
Do you have any interaction with the relationship with the Go projects at all?
Not much.
The Go Virginia regions?
Yeah, Go Virginia.
We have a little bit. We're working to improve the relationship. We do a meeting with them and VEDP next month to talk about the site readiness program. That's who their state is using to kind of meet with each of the localities to like further those discussions.
Thank you.
Thanks, Casey. The next slide is, we felt it was important to put capital investment and new square footage on the same slide, even though they're not perfectly, you can't really overlap the two. For example, Capital One is building a new garage. That's capital investment, but it doesn't necessarily equate to new square footage. But really the takeaway here is we're not just looking at all these different data points just to gather them. We sort of look at the trends as well. That goes for the Community Development Department and all the other things that we track in our other departments. There's a slight downward trend, as you can see on the capital investment side, but a large uptick on the new commercial side. So these are some of the data points that we look at. And I do have a list, and if you want to see it after, we had a long presentation, so I'll try and do my best to speed through this one a little bit. But we do have a list of the new square footage, some of the higher level projects that we've seen, such as Kitty Academy, in addition at the Kinloch neighborhood, Tuckahoe Pines, and a few of those other projects, just to name a few just this past year. But if you want to see any of the previous years, we do have that information.
Quick question on me, what percentage of that is in West Creek?
You do have those numbers?
I can email them to you. I have what percentage of capital investment is in the TCSD and percentage of capital investment in designated growth areas. Would
you guesstimate that it's over 50% for, I'll say TCSD and West Creek, or no, I don't want to put you on the spot. But
yeah, I have the numbers. I should have pulled them in preparation because I should have known that you would have asked that. But I'll be more than happy to email them out to you.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'll email the entire
Yeah, not a
Thank
problem. Just looking down the list real quick that we've had just over the past 4 years, pretty much everything is in the Tuckahoe Creek Service District. Not all of it is in West Creek, but we'll get those numbers. The next data point we look at, it's always important to look at some of these, and really the county assessor, she actually had a presentation directly after mine, so I kind of passed the baton over to her on this one because this is really more in her ballpark. But it is something that we do look at. As a matter of fact, this slide is her slide. Her name's Marianne Davis. We look at the assessed valuations. You can see the residential in green at 80.76 and commercial at 19.24. It's fine to look at those numbers, but where were they last year? You can see under, we put the 2019 numbers in there as well, just to sort of start tracking what those numbers look like over a period of time. We're looking for the balance of about 80%, 20%, but as you can see here, we're close to those numbers, but we'll continue to keep tracking that and see what the trends are over time.
Do you track valuation plus additional revenues for commercial versus, let's say, residential or residential equivalent? That is, with the War of 1812 tax, can't think of the proper name of it.
hear what you said.
The War of 1812 tax.
Oh,
Yes.
sorry.
The War of 1812 tax.
Yeah,
Is this like?
it's the,
I feel like I'm deaf right now.
I can't think of it.
I know the name of it.
Basically.
Like business
the
equipment,
tool
machinery and
stuff?
tools?
No. It has a
No.
funny name.
Yeah, it's got a funny name. You're right, I can't think of
I'm
it either.
Googling.
The aggregation of all those revenue streams that come from commercial versus, let's say, car, other, that would be I guess what I'm asking is the absolute resolute.
Equal.
Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, it does
Yeah,
look
like
like
if it was
it's
Core of
nice.
1812, people
Sorry.
will come up.
Good
All
old
this,
writers.
all that to see what the true revenue to the county is from commercial and non-commercial. To see, cause you know, in one sense you always hear 70-30 or something like that.
We were talking about that earlier,
Proper split.
70-30, 80-20, and some of the different data points that we look at. That information is available, and we can definitely add it as a data point. As a matter of fact, my follow-up question to the EDA is, after I go through, and there's only a few more data point type slides, is there anything that you feel that we're not tracking that you would like to see tracked? So that would be one we can definitely add to it. Vacancy rates? Vacancy rates?
I was like, wait a minute.
It's over my shoulder, I need a little mirror. Vacancy rates, as you can see from, we're comparing ourselves to the Richmond metropolitan statistical area and the US. Our numbers are low, around 2%, and there's sort of two sides to look at that. Is one side is whatever inventory we have is mostly filled, but I think, as we know in this room, it's not necessarily that for our perspective. That may work in Henrico, it may work in Chesterfield, but we just know we just don't really have the inventory. So whatever is built is typically filled almost immediately. And we saw that with the Virginia Axe Company that moved into that spec space, and that building filled up, and a few of the other spec spaces in the Rockville Commerce Park that were built, they all filled up almost immediately. So we know the inventory is just not there, and we do get calls frequently. We had one just the other day. We had one last week, somebody looking for X square footage. And we'll fill you in a little more on some of those in the closed session, but we do get the calls frequently, so we know we do have a lack of that. So this is something that's actually very important to us. With economic development, as I mentioned earlier, it's not just the new businesses and existing businesses, it's the workforce as well. On the Capital Region Workforce Development Board, they show a lot more numbers, honestly more Richmond focused, to be honest. They do have some of our numbers in there in their presentations that they do. But as you can see on this one, we're well above the Richmond MSA, the state of Virginia in the US. They're hovering around 0.3, 0.4. We're at anywhere from 0.8 to 1.2, and this is 1 year's worth of data, so quarterly. Unemployment is another one that we look at from the workforce side. Goochland County versus Richmond MSA, US and Virginia. As you can see, we're lower than the Richmond and the US, but we're almost on par with Virginia over the past 2 years. So, as far as data goes, there are other things that we do track that we didn't feel were as important as thrown up here. These are some of the higher level items, but before I move into the rest of the presentation, which is more geared towards the strategic plan, is there anything else that you think that we should be tracking, something of interest, B-poll taxes, things like that?
The previous two slides, have you ever normalized those for, let's say, the equivalent vacancy or equivalent space, et cetera, for those 3 different areas? Of course, that's going to be hard statistically, but the normalization would be, and also with the employment, well, that's probably not worth it.
I liked where you were going with that. You're talking to an engineer. You had me at normalization, so.
Yeah, well, one to another.
But if there's, and don't mean to put anyone on the spot, if there's anything you think of after this, by all means, and we're happy to send this to you in an email as well after. But the last chunk is really geared towards our strategic plan. We're actually very proud of the remainder of this deck. There's a lot of information, a lot of things that Sarah, Casey, and myself have done just this past year and a half, and we're very proud of that. As you know, the strategic plan was updated in June of 2019, focusing on new business, existing business, tourism, and creating an effective and efficient economic development department. With this slide, I think there was about 21 objectives and strategies that were listed in the new business side of things. As you can see, we're about halfway complete with those objectives. And some of what some of those are, number one is increasing the VEDP leads. I actually have a slide right after that that sort of explains that a little bit further. Increasing the number of sites that we have in Virginia Scan, creating social media pages, things like that. Those are some of the items that we had as objectives in goal number one that we've accomplished. Some of them are actually dynamic objectives. In other words, they're continuously being updated. So even though we've got it set, we're ready, and we're rock and rolling on it, every year that goes by, those numbers will change, and we'll just keep adjusting appropriately. Items that are underway, we already created a draft of marketing materials for West Creek. That was one of the items. We've actually been talking with the Pruitts. It's obviously not complete because you haven't seen it yet, but we're still talking to them and getting their feedback on that. With VA Scan, as mentioned on the previous slide, in the start of 2019, we only had 44 items or 44 properties that were listed in VA Scan. Casey was hired in Q1 of 2019, and as you can see, she immediately got to work and started listing the properties. Yes, these properties are already listed in other locations, but for us, Virginia Scan is really sort of the first stop for a lot of businesses that want to look in the area. And as you can see, by the end of the year, we had over 106 properties that were listed in there. So it's a lot of work to punch that data in. It's not just putting a property in. It's does it have water? Does it have sewer? Is it wells? Is it septic? Who's the electric company? I mean, there's a lot of information that goes along with each of these cards that are posted in there. Sort of a common theme throughout the presentation is marketing. We've done a lot of marketing materials. You have an infographic in front of you that we passed out. We have other infographics that we pass out to Virginia Economic Development Partnership staff and other local businesses. And Sarah has her own infographic that she gives to existing businesses. So it's tailored to whoever we're talking to. I guess it's more still of a data point than anything, but it is something that we look at. We've had 53 project leads just in this past year, 6 from the EDP, and 21 of those are still active. And Casey and I were talking, she's been tracking these, and we were talking about it, and I said, well, if we were to win all 21, what would that mean? You know, just a generic question. And if we were to win, big if, but if we were to win all those projects, it would be about 507 jobs and $65 million of capital investment. And we'll keep you posted on those items.
I had a caveat to that.
Sure, go
We
for
don't
it.
have all the data for all of them either. So that's kind of minimum is if we were to land the 21, we don't have jobs or investment for every project. So that's kind of that minimum of the ones we do have.
And again, high proportion of those are in Woods Creek or TCSD?
To be honest, no, they don't have specific locations they're looking at. They're
Oh.
calling us asking, hey, this is what we need, what do you have? And so we're sending them based on their needs or criteria, depends on what we send them. So if we had one VEDP project that came to us that did not want public water. They wanted a well and septic, and we're like, okay, that shifts a little bit of the focus. So it just depends on what they're asking for.
It is interesting when you hear that, and there is a project that it's still sort of a closed session item that was looking in the Tucker Creek Service District that wants to do their own well. They understand there's still a tax that is paid on that property. Yeah.
That's really weird.
What are
Yes.
when you talk about 21 active leads, you had 53 total project leads, you have 21 active leads, that just means, that could mean anything, I'm assuming, from you haven't heard back from since you gave them information,
Yeah.
to anything other than no, we're not coming.
So
Right.
the 53 total project leads is any inquiry we had about
Right.
available space or anything like that. Even if we get a VEDP project that we can't even submit for, we include it in a project because we want to keep track of that. So when someone comes to us and says, I want to build spec space, we can go to our project list and say, oh, well, in the past year, we've had 20 people come to us that we've had to say no to because we haven't had this specific type of space. The 21 active, those are ones that are continuously, we're talking to the project lead on it. We're getting updates. It's not radio silence or anything. Those get kind of moved. We have a system, so those that we're not hearing back from, they get moved into a monitor status instead of active. So these are.
So the actives are people you have ongoing discussions with.
Yep.
You consider them pretty relevant.
Yeah.
So amongst the active, what do you guys, from a sales standpoint?
Mhm.
So if we're salesmen here, we're selling Goochland. How do you prioritize the 21 active leads? I mean, obviously you put up a lot of statistics there, and obviously one would be Class A office space. If a guy wanted to come in and build a Class A office space, I'm assuming you guys are on board right away and put him at the top, probably.
So most of the ones that come to us, they're ones we're gonna be interested in if they call us directly.
Mhm.
The ones that we kind of have group discussions about are the ones that normally come from an outside source, so VEDP, where they have some funky requirement in there that we're just like, that I'm not sure that would set well. Like if, you look at kind of the land that's available for that, and you say, well, if we put it here, what does that impact look like, for someone who wants to do X? Is it this the only site in the county that works and it's surrounded by residential and they say there's a potent smell? Probably not gonna even consider for that one. But the other ones, in terms of prioritizing, honestly, they come in at such different rates. I check in with each of them pretty much monthly. I just shoot a quick email to my contact or say, hey, you wanna grab coffee or something like that, just to kind of touch base and get in the door with them. It is a lot of projects to kind of keep up with and manage, but once a month I just go in there and shoot them emails to see how things are going, and if there's any additional information I can send them, or if they have any additional questions. A lot of the time they've done their due diligence ahead of time. They've come to us honestly to talk about incentives and what the process is to kind of get through Goochland County. But that typically is one of our biggest selling points is we were at the Graker event yesterday, and they were saying that the city of Richmond has a 24-month turnaround time for some of just to get through like permitting and everything, and then even just to get, I guess, construction. We're like, yeah, it won't take you that long here. And then kind of the low tax rates, and then especially if people are looking at spec space, those vacancy rates, speak volumes when we tell people we have, 21 active projects, and I would say more than half of them are looking for existing space that we don't have. So it's, trying to figure out if there's the land available or just keeping them updated as spaces come on the market. So.
We had an individual come in the other day that asked us basically those stats, and when they heard that we have low vacancy rate and there's a high need for warehouse space and Class A space and things like that, they seem very interested in just wanting to buy a piece of property and start building. So we don't know where that's going to go. That was just a conversation.
That's not included in that number.
Well, but there's no doubt. I'm sitting here wishing I had the money. But if I did, I'd throw up something right away.
Yeah.
If we could. Those rates are unheard of.
It's
it's a no-brainer. Because of that's why I asked the question. I don't understand why we can't get somebody quickly we've identified that as probably your most frustrating point.
Yeah.
People call
absolutely.
That should be our priority.
Mm-hmm.
We should be after somebody to throw up those buildings, like the guy who was the previous guy who wanted to build that building. I guess we haven't heard back, but
we'll update you in closed session.
Clearly there is, to me, the priority is obvious.
Yeah, and I think it's just a matter for some of the developers of, I think some of them are a little, not burnt, but just, when they don't have a tenant on board, it's harder to make the pitch to, they're scared. And it's hard to make the pitch if they do need some sort of finance. So the gentleman who came in, we crafted a letter, signed it, and said, hey, here's the numbers, here's where we stand, this is why we would support it. Here are the project numbers and everything to help him get that financing so he can continue building.
And you guys obviously offer the assistance to helping fill buildings. You'd say
Yes.
you have a database
Oh my gosh, yes.
willing and able.
Yeah,
Okay. That's right.
It wouldn't take very long.
Right.
So.
New businesses. You can see on the screen alone, there's a lot of new things that have come to Goochland this past year, from Drive Shack to Kitty Academy. The tenant outfits on the right side, those are all that's just been in the past 12 months, and all that is in the areas that I mentioned, the Rockville Commerce Park, all that's been filling up. I do have, with the Virginia Axe Company, I have a slow motion video of me and Supervisor Lumpkins throwing axes in slow motion, so if you ever want to see it. I think we both hit the bullseye. But there's a lot of other projects that have come in, so we're very excited about that. Which is on this slide. So we have several that are under consideration and several that are actually under construction. So hopefully this time next year, when we present, we can say that some of these are complete. Near the bottom, under 9 active, one of the projects is called Avery Point. That is the continuing care retirement community in the Notch section across from the Wawa on Broad Street. It's 1,400 units approximately of independent and dependent care living. I'm specifically calling that one out only because just yesterday I found out that they submitted for 3 of their buildings all on the same day. The permit fee was pretty high and they just cut one check and was done with it. So 3 buildings in one day is pretty big for our little county. So in addition to everything else that you see on these lists. So it's hot off the press items.
No, I was just trying to see the list.
Oh.
Yeah, I
Oh,
was
my head-
no,
my head in the
fine.
way.
You're
So
fine.
this is
Don't mind me-
actual-
I need to see it again.
Don't mind me doing my ab work here.
This is a photo of Avery Point's marketing center right there. So this is Wilkes Ridge Parkway. This is Broad Street up this way. So you come back here, and this is some of the clearing that they've done already, and this is their marketing center that should be open shortly, staffed and ready to, I guess, market and sign contracts for folks coming in. So.
Orient me again on that, Sarah, please.
Yep.
So we did,
Wilkes Ridge Parkway. So this should be Broad Street up this way.
Not that
Okay.
building.
Not that building. This building is Sheltering Arms. So
Yeah.
Sheltering Arms is actually right here.
Okay,
Pretty
that's
much
pretty
across.
far into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just
It's
can't
down
see
the
it.
road, yes,
Yeah.
when you get into Wilkes Ridge.
Okay.
That road actually ended. The West Creek Associates extended that road to have this project.
Okay.
And that actually taps out, it's sort of like a peninsula, you got Tuckahoe Creek right there that creates like this V. It's gonna tap out that entire land mass that's left in that section. Now there's still, on the other side of Wilkes Ridge Parkway, the west side, there's still land, but it really taps out that eastern and southeastern section. Moving to existing business, same slide as before, and the new business is showing sort of all the objectives that we've completed. Some of the ones that we've completed is targeted visit list for our existing businesses. Who are we going to go to? We've targeted the top 10 businesses in the county first, and Sarah's actually met with several others. Setting up the BRE program, the Business Retention and Expansion Program, holding a business walk, which we did hold with BEDP a few months ago. So those are just some of the things that we've actually done. And I do have some more slides. I'm going to start moving in case you tell me if I need to slow down. But for the BRE program, we did create a comprehensive list of existing businesses within Goochland. We've identified and organized a lot of those resources for those businesses. And as you can see, there's another infographic. We found these very helpful to us and very informative to the businesses. And we've actually had a lot of feedback, positive feedback on these items. So as far as the interaction, Sarah's been very busy. And this is basic, I guess it predates the strategic plan by a little bit. We've been doing businesses, but it's really since the strategic plan we've really.
Right, so really I started in earnest on my business visits in August. So this is about a 6-month.
Yeah. So we've had about 25 business visits. We talk business touches at social media pages, things like that. We've been to 21 chamber events, mentioned our relationship with the chamber and increasing our presence with them. They've been very appreciative. As a matter of fact, we're moving in with them, as you know, into the business center down the road. We've had several other items that are listed on here, from business spotlights, grand openings that we've held, so on and so forth. Meeting with the businesses is one thing, but finding out what their issues are, and we're happy to hear anything that they have to say, but we really wanted to know what kind of challenges and issues they may see. So this is just in the past 6 months, this is the data that we have, and obviously this will change. The more businesses we meet with, the more these percentages will change. But you can see the large red one is infrastructure. I thought that would be an item. I thought it would be a little more locality reference. Like for example, if you're on the east end of the county, Capital One, one of your infrastructure concerns would probably be Route 288. If you're in the middle, central, or western part of the county, maybe a little more broadband related, something like that. And we were hearing things across the board. We were hearing everything from natural gas issues to power issues to everything else we would naturally think of: transportation, public water, public sewer access, things like that. So when we received this information, we didn't want to just get this information. We wanted to know, is there anything we can actually do? Is there any businesses we can help with? Because we want them to know we're not just here to listen to the challenges. One of our goals is to help them through some of the challenges where we can. A lot of them have issues with Route 288. While that's a VDOT related item, we were happy to report to them that we do have a Smart Scale application, one of VDOT's many funding sources. We had a Smart Scale application in 2018 to use the shoulders of Route 288. That actually wasn't even our idea. The Transportation Planning Organization and VDOT both studied it and said, hey, let's open up the shoulders. It's kind of a cheaper option than the full-on widening, which would be very expensive. So they didn't know that existed. They just thought 288's a problem, nobody's doing anything about it. Well, we were happy to report that Goochland County is doing something about it. Several things actually with Route 288 specifically. But one of the success stories we have is from the challenges we have this much assistance that we've been able to provide to some of these organizations. One of the ones I just want to call out is there was a business on the east end of the county that didn't have broadband, and they contacted a local broadband company, and that company said, hey, for us to provide you that, it would be $50,000 of investment, so you'd have to give us $50,000. That all happened before Sarah did one of her PRE visits. She went out there, heard that challenge, ended up connecting A to B, calling the broadband company, and through several emails and phone calls and things like that, the company said, all right, we'll lower from $50,000 down to $6,000. Then through several more conversations, they ended up doing it for free. Now they haven't done it yet, correct me if I'm wrong, so the broadband isn't in, but they dropped from $50,000 to $0. Basically, we'll hook you up and you just start paying. Wow. So that's a huge success story for us, and that's something that we want to really tout. And when we talk to the GLE, that's one of the things we're going to let them know that we've done. There was also...
Sir, can I give you my address?
Commercial only, Mike.
Give you guys a moment.
That's great.
Talk to my husband.
Yep.
He's good at that too.
I'll just give you one more. There's a business on West Creek Parkway that operates 24/7. They have staff and employees there 24/7. They were not on Dominion Power's emergency list, so if the power went out, they weren't on the list to be held first or to address first. They had that issue for a while. Again, Sarah went out, met with them. They told us the challenge. We contacted Dominion Power and got them on the list. And they were like, wow, that was easy. We've been trying for years. So it's just one of the many success stories that we've had so far.
Gotta know the right people.
That's right.
From the tourism side, that's actually not resting with us. That's actually more on the Parks and Rec side of the house. So this is a slide that we gave the board. They're looking to produce something, and we've seen sort of some draft formats and some things that they've been tossing around. So we've had some interaction with it, but when we have more information, we'll obviously provide that to you as well. But we have more exciting news whenever they have, probably in calendar year 21. I think that was FY21, wasn't it? I think that may have been a typo. Moving to the last section, again, same pie chart. You can see we had several completed items. One of them was tracking the appropriate information. The first part of this presentation, you saw a lot of data points we look at, and again, we're really interested in your feedback on those items. If you think there's anything that we're not tracking we should, or any type of other overlay of different types of data, we're happy to do so and look at that information. But we've already started tracking, and not just over time, we've been able to go back in time and get some information so we can get some sort of trend lines going with some of this information.
What is
oh.
exactly underway and what is completed?
So completed was tracking appropriate information.
Tracking.
That was just one of the items. There's several. One of the underway items is the business center. So I shouldn't even say this time next year. This time next month, that item will be completed because we will have moved down the road. But that's one of the items. One of the objectives was to move in to our new business center with the Chamber of Commerce. And as mentioned earlier, a big thing for us isn't just going out and trying to get the new big business and meeting with our existing business. It's really relationships, building up our relationships with the Chamber and all these other organizations that are out there that, quite honestly, we just didn't really have a presence with. There's several organizations that didn't know anything about Goochland or very little. I jokingly say that some of them thought we're west of Charlottesville, so we're trying to trying to put ourselves on the map with them, so they know who we are, so we can market ourselves better. Digital media was one of the strategies, and I'm almost done, by the way. Digital media was one of our strategies. Facebook, you can see we have about 150 followers. LinkedIn, 20,000 impressions. Our largest one to date was when we posted about Drive Shack and their grand opening. We had about 2,500 reactions to that. So we're very proud of that, because that all happened almost within the month or two, I think, of us getting the social media pages up and running. So that was neat. And the Virginia Axe Company, I think we had about 1,400 reactions to that. So if you're not following us on social media, please do. Hit the like button, hit the follow button. We'd appreciate it. And we definitely don't want to forget about our agricultural ties. This goes back to supplementing and enforcing our vision statement. We have attended the Agritourism Conference. I think Chair Dearden went and Casey went this past year and found it very valuable and had a lot of good information there. And the last bullet point, the grand opening of the county's agricultural center. Not sure if you've been, I know some of you have been up there before and seen it. It's on Dogtown Road at the old Central High School. It's an amazing place what they've done up there. A lot of work has gone underway, and even the amphitheater type area where families can come and watch movies and things. It's just a really neat experience. If you haven't been there, I would recommend going. Lisa's right across the street. So the last thing we do when we do these presentations with the board is we always kind of talk about our future priorities, could be challenges per se, but we want to obviously continue with the strategic plan and finish up the items that are in there and report back to you and continue to track some of the dynamic items, but identify target market, continue with our existing business visits. We've met with the top 10 and several others, and we want to continue down that list to let our business know who we are. And Sarah actually created little postcards. When we find out there's a new business, we send a little postcard to them. We actually got one guy who commented back. He said, "Hey, I came from another county. My county never talked to me, and you guys did when I moved in. That was just amazing." So that's just one of the things that we do to let them know we're here for them if they need us for something. Continue with business park walks, and I think the last one's kind of a hard one, sustaining all the accomplishments, everything we've done this past year. So we're very proud of this presentation, but that's the last slide. But if you have any questions, we're happy to.
I think you guys have done an outstanding job.
Yes.
Thank you.
I know it's been a lot of effort, but you've really done a lot of things. And just my dealing with you guys, if I need something or ask for something, it's immediate. I don't know how you have the time to do it. Your customer service is excellent.
Thank you.
And, you know, with that effort, can't help but
We even
grow
found your
businesses. That's right. My phone? Yeah.
Well,
what
your phone or your wallet?
Yeah, I found my phone. No, my wallet.
Yeah, it
yeah.
was a
Oh,
wallet.
wow. I found my wallet.
That's a success story, I think.
But
We should add that to our list.
the one thing that I'd be interested in of all those slides, when you talked about, you went out and you talked to businesses, you listed infrastructure and you listed county ordinances, 2 of the top 3. I think it'd be because it was such a big, especially infrastructure, because it was such a big topic of issues. I'd love to see that broken down more.
Okay.
To know, exactly what the issues were within infrastructure. You detailed them
Transportation
quickly,
versus
but it'd be
utilities.
it'd be interesting to see what the biggest complaint is, the next biggest. You can kind of check them off as you go, or just so we all know what current businesses are talking about.
Yeah, that's a
Do
good
you have a
comment.
good handle on how long it really takes for a business to get up and running on, let's say, from different levels? I mean,
Yeah, so if they come in and if they have to go through some type of zoning process, that's around 90 to 120 days. And then construction on top of that. So, that could take up to a year, 18 months, if you have to build a building. If you're going into an existing spot, really, it's just getting a business license, and going through a zoning approval for that, take like a week. So, it just depends. Correct, unless there's some type of zoning that has to go associated with the business.
Does the economic development permit, is it I don't know if it's fair to say surrogate, but go against, head to head with zoning and.
Yes.
Okay. I like to see competition, so.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Oh,
good,
yes.
good.
So, you know, my background was in community development for 14 years, so I know the way around certain things. And so I could say, well, why can't we do it this way? And they're like, okay, yeah, you can. All right, check. Move on. So, yeah, I've done that on several instances.
Good.
So.
I love to see and hear that. The broadband initiative grant and loan, is there anything happening there at all? Or that?
I think, didn't Paul give an update last board meeting
He
on
did.
that? And I don't know what
He
that
sent
update
something
is,
out about a
but-
hotspot.
Yes.
They did.
Yes.
Yeah,
That
there
is-
was the,
Library
maybe
is-
you're familiar with the
Firehouse,
10
libraries.
10 incentives, they have it printed out on the front desk. I think you were there when they presented. Yeah, I think what Paul sent out, I think, was an update to that, to tell everyone, hey, we talked about putting broadband in all the fire stations and the library and all these different places that people can go. But you mentioned a grant? Are you,
Yeah,
did you say
our
grant?
grant.
Our
grant.
contribution.
It's
Oh, our
75,000,
contribution.
75,000.
It's still sitting there.
Still sitting there,
Yeah.
haven't been touched.
Yeah, nothing, I don't have an update, but we can definitely find out.
I was just curious if, yeah, looks like.
Okay, moving on to the target industry analysis.
Yes.
Virginia Tech proposal.
So part of our strategic plan was to really try to figure out what target markets we're looking at. That plays into a whole bunch of different things, including the incentives piece, to be honest. You know, what do we want to come here and why? Part of the issue, and Sarah and I look at the numbers, is we don't have that analytical background to look at those and figure out what the national, what the local, what the regional trends are, to figure out who's coming, what industry they're in, and things like that. And I think where we get a little stuck doing it ourselves is that Goochland kind of has this range of businesses. So we have the Cap One and the Carmaxes of the world, and then we have the 50 and under employees. We have this really big medium gap. That typically is where a lot of this information would come from. So with that being said, we've reached out to Virginia Tech, and they have it's their Office of Economic Development that does this analysis on behalf of kind of localities and things like that. So this is their proposal for that. I think I have enough. Yeah. So this is their proposal. The first couple pages just really talk about who they are and what they plan to do, and all of that. Oh, yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. So kind of what the project overview would be, the scope of work. It would take about 4 months, which I think is a pretty good timeline for us. But this would allow us to then target our marketing materials for new business. And even some of our existing business, to figure out kind of supplier pipelines and things like that. But so this analysis would then kind of help us identify those markets and then look at specific trade shows that may benefit us attending them, as opposed to kind of shooting in the dark and going to a trade show, showing up, and those industry specific professionals saying, that's great, but we need rail and you have no rail. So with that being said, on that kind of last page, you can see the proposed cost for the data, software, and all of that. So the total project cost is about $14,875. And so we were bringing this forward to the EDA to see if you all would be interested in contributing half of that, and then our budget would cover the other half of the proposal.
Why Virginia Tech?
So we reached out to a different agency, and they have done other kind of localities. They've done this work in other localities. I reached out to another organization, and it came in twice as high.
For same scope.
For, yeah,
Similar
pretty much the
scope.
same scope. So it came in at 29 something.
And another organization was a for-profit organization as opposed to a
Correct.
university?
Correct.
And the reason I ask, when I think economic development, I don't necessarily think Virginia Tech first as far as
No.
university. Not disparaging them, I just don't. Wondering if VCU, Richmond, UVA, any of those would do
Sure.
the same thing.
And this is going to give us information about that medium cluster of businesses that we don't really know very much about, so how will we use that information?
So I think moving forward, it's really just gonna identify who those medium businesses could be, since we have kind of that gap. So it would look at who is here already, so they would do all that research, and they would look at kind of the regional trends that they're seeing as well as the nationwide ones. They would identify target industries, and then we can do the research to figure out kind of some of those medium-sized companies that may be interested in moving here. Moving, relocating, opening a second office, et cetera.
So the outcome is basically a list of the type of businesses that we could recruit.
Yes.
Do any of the memberships that you guys have joined offer any of that assistance?
No, because a lot of them are national based. So they, like, their sponsors would offer that, but once again, they're the for-profit companies that would.
So they would know trends of things going on around the
Yeah, I mean,
country?
they would know, like, the national trends, yes. But a lot of the organizations were, so this is something, if we were part of a regional partnership,
Mhm.
this is something they would do. But we're not. And so this is one of those things that a regional partnership would kind of help with. But the other agencies we're a part of, they're more looking at trends on a national level as opposed to regional.
Yeah, and to jump in, it is one of our strategies in our strategic plan is to identify our target markets, because I can't tell you how many times we're asked by VEDP or someone, well, what are your target industries? What are you targeting? What do you want to bring to Goochland County? And they hate the answer, pretty much anything. 'Cause they're like, we
I
can't
personally
operate
agree
like
with that answer. I mean, I agree with them being
Right.
unhappy with that answer.
Right.
There should be a list of targets
Yes. Correct.
that we want to bring here.
Yes.
And I don't know who would know better than people in Goochland. You know, and I'm not saying that to be funny. I'm saying that I'm sure there's a list that the supervisors would love to have come here. I'm sure there's a list of people that you know can and can't. There's probably 80% of the people that you guys would have on your target list, you know there's nothing here for them.
Right, correct,
Right?
correct.
So it seems to me that before you, and I'm not discouraging this, I'm saying before you do that, I would love to see the target list you guys come up with. I don't think I've ever seen that list.
What we can tell.
Go ahead. No,
I was gonna say, sort of the negative image of that is when people say, what are you targeting? What we've been responding with is what we're not targeting. We say we know what we're not targeting. We're not targeting a motor mile of car sales on Broad Street.
Smokestacks.
You know, smokestacks and paper mills and things. We haven't that's been our response, so we don't like that response. We want a better response. We want to do, here's what we're focused on, here's the things. But to your point, we will have heavy interaction with them during this process. It's not just giving them the contract and then have them give us a report every month or two to review. We would have heavy interaction with them and let them know what we're seeing in the region, Richmond region, and gathering their thoughts from all their research and seeing if it lines up with what we know. Because if they say, hey, our research is showing motor mile on Broad Street, we know that that's not anything we want. So there would be heavy interaction with them if that helps. So.
In addition to that, so the way that industries are broken down are NAICS codes. They're North American Industry Classification System. So 2-digit is very generic, 6-digit is very defined. So we can give you the 2-digit. These days though, the site location consultants, they can do the 2-digit Google research real quick and figure it out.
Sure.
So what we're looking at from them is more of potentially like a 4-digit deep dive, where it's not, we just don't say light manufacturing. We say maybe synthetic plastic polymer manufacturing of this specific type. And so instead of going, okay, we're looking at manufacturing, now we have, okay, well here are the top 100 companies in this very specific 4-digit NAICS code, and then we can look at who their suppliers are and things like that and find those connections.
What's West Creek Associates doing with regards to this question and answering it?
I mean, I think they're kind of
The marketing
filtering.
materials.
Yeah, we're working with them on marketing materials. I think they're kind of just filtering projects right now as they come, and kind of seeing what projects come to their door. We're working with them on these marketing materials to kind of identify, like, these are campuses, if you will, so like the Notch campus. they're not really saying that that's a specific targeted industry for that area. I think what they're gonna do is look at the industries that are already there and say, hey, potential industries that could locate here would be, and so in the notch, you know, you kind of put healthcare first, whereas maybe around Cap One and CarMax, you put corporate headquarters first, and just type of redo it, so you're not specifically targeting a corporate headquarters, but you're gearing the materials that way without saying it.
And oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
One of the things they've told us, and also actually during the business walk, VEDP asked them the same thing. They said, what are you targeting? And they said, what do you think we should? You know, that they've asked us, what do you think we should focus on?
Yeah.
And let me supplement that by saying, I've had conversations with Thomas and Michael Pruitt, and they both said, Todd, we had no idea that in 2019, that West Creek would be building out the way that it is when they first conceptualized West Creek. I mean, you have H.H. Hunt, residential neighborhood encompassing the west side and south side of Capital One. They never envisioned that. They never envisioned the brewery there. So it's the face of what they originally thought it was going to be has changed a lot, and I think they've embraced the change. So they're basically asking us and VEDP, what are you guys seeing? What's out there? And they know some things that they don't want either. It's pretty much the same things we don't want. But I'm not the best answer to your question, but I hope that.
Is this
Gotcha.
something that, didn't we have 2 software packages that analyzed and crushed numbers, that we got rid of one of them?
Chimera and
Chimera.
CoStar.
That's not something that one of those software packages could do, is it?
They'll tell you who's here, and they can tell you kind of the national trends, but they're not, and they can probably give you that kind of, like I said, that 2-digit NAICS code of the generic. You've got a lot of manufacturers, you might want to look at it, but they're not going to dive into the 4-digit.
So have you read Virginia Tech's reports, past reports?
I've looked at a couple, yeah. They're good. They provide a lot of detail, and they give you that information that you need. The other one we looked at, I think they would do a great job too, but when you look at double the cost for pretty much the same outcome, and then they have kind of a la carte services after that to encourage using them as a contractor. It got very expensive very quickly if you put your wish list together.
It does say it's open in negotiations, though. Have you thought about, if you were to negotiate them, what you might counteroffer with?
We have not. We just kind of took the contract and thought we'd bring it to y'all first to see if you had any interest, or kind of go that route first.
Oh, and when I said we would be interacting with this team from Virginia Tech, if the authority approves this, when I said we, I meant everyone at this table. We wouldn't just bring you a final report. I just want to make sure that was clear. Like throughout the process, if it takes a few months, maybe in a closed session or another meeting, we can show you some of the information that they're showing to us and engaging your interest and feedback on that process as well. So, and Casey, I'm sorry if you mentioned it. We were looking at the 50-50 split.
Yes.
Okay. Did you say that? I would.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I was looking down.
Sorry.
How much of this is push-pull? That is, how much of it is pushing, here's only what we want, versus, I guess looking at market trends from a national, regional standpoint, I guess I don't have a good understanding about focused, tailored push out to, let's say, not a niche, but a market segment, as opposed to looking at what's viable. I mean, what's growing, right? Tech, healthcare, fintech.
Yep.
Right. And fintech, I think, between the Federal Reserve research and, I don't know, man, it's a stretch. Federal Reserve research and CarMax, Capital One is, I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at this problem wrong.
So let me go over this again. You're gonna do this study. You're gonna hire consultants to come in to tell you what you're looking for.
You make it sound dumb.
Well, let's start there and, you know, kind of build on it. I'm
I
just
don't-
listening to what I hear.
I don't think looking for is the appropriate term. I think what we're poised for. Because there are contributing factors, especially when you get down to those 4-digit NAICS codes. Like, you can say manufacturing and that's great.
Well, okay, I understand that. So let's jump forward, and they've identified
Yeah.
an industry segment here, an industry segment. Here's I assume they'll give them to you in
Yep.
rankings. Where do you take that? I mean, do you just wait for calls to come in
No.
and say, oh, yeah, you're number 2. We'd love to have you. I mean, and I'm simplifying, believe me.
Yeah,
I'm not,
no,
I'm
I
not
gotcha.
saying, I'm not making it that easy.
Yeah.
But my point would be, or do you take this and do you now go market Goochland specifically to industry association meetings?
Yes.
Is that what you're gonna do? You're gonna refine who you go after?
Yes, 100%. So
Or
right
from
now.
a sales standpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now we have this generic new business marketing material. It says, just the benefits of being here. There's nothing about specific industry on it. It's just very generic. That allows us to be able to create a unique piece that says, hey, here's the generic piece, and here's why your plastic, poly, whatever, manufacturing facility would fit here. We know you need this water. Guess what? We have that water capacity. We know you need natural gas. Here are 6 sites that have available natural gas. So then we can also market the existing sites we have, like a West Creek or north of Broad or anything like that, specifically to those companies. And it's not just the trade shows. Then we know Sarah and I think like 3 months into us both being here, we went and met with a site location consultant. And we were just like, look, we're trying to figure this out. What are what do you like to see from a site location consultant perspective? The top of that list is a very targeted industry. We don't want manufacturing, we want something more specific. The second piece of that is very targeted materials that tell a story for that industry. So here's why you should come here, here's the benefits of your specific industry being here, and here's the benefits you get of being in Goochland.
I think the word for this uses infographics. Is
Yes.
that what
Yeah.
it's now called?
Fancy.
Yeah.
Do you have infographics specifically targeted to each site in Goochland?
So sites, no. We don't have infographics to the sites. We use VA Scan and I use the broker flyers.
But as part of the West Creek marketing materials,
Oh,
we
yeah.
were going to try and create, and you haven't seen it yet, but trying to create different campuses, so to speak, of West Creek to focus on different things. But do we have it? No. But will we eventually?
And we don't
Yes.
have it right now because we're so generic that some of those sites may work and some of them may not. So I don't want to have a list of 45, 70, 106 sites.
No, not at all. I'm talking about just specific areas where
Yeah.
if you have a business park here,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and it doesn't have water and sewer,
Yeah.
then you're gonna put well and, septic.
Mhm.
But there should be, I think it's a worthwhile exercise to identify the sites that you wanna fill
Mm-hmm.
and develop, whether you actually do an infographic or just do it internally. You say, here's 6 sites. We have 6 sites and 4 of them can't possibly handle any of what Virginia Tech's gonna offer to us.
Right.
So in other words, is the consulting, are we putting the cart before the horse? Is my only question.
Yeah. Back to 2 things real quick. The usage of this. Again, we've mentioned a few times, the Pruitts are asking us what are we targeting, VEDP, the individuals that work at the Virginia Economic Development Partnership. If we can tell them, here's the things that we're targeting, they now have an idea of what we're targeting. So when a business comes in and they say, we know Goochland is looking for that, that would help us on that front. And if Enrico wasn't.
So they can't even help you with coming up?
No, they
with what
could.
we're-
I mean, they will call us on some of those.
But go ahead.
They're not 9 pieces to that. So I think there's 6 total sites that they considered out of the whatever we added to the database. Yeah.
I thought you meant if a business called them.
So
with certain
I
criteria.
understand
Yeah.
where you're going. My point would be, in just discussing with Virginia Tech, and you say, well, based on you guys' research, how many potential businesses that we would want here are going to require less than 25 acres? I mean, if we don't have,
Yeah.
We don't have any inventory, what's the point of doing?
So we don't have any existing building inventory. We do have the land. We 100% have the land, and I think that's part of this is going to help, because when you look at a target industry, so if they're manufacturing and you have an old industrial building, you know, you can kind of make that work. But when you just have the land, now they're asking about the water, the sewer, the capacities, the lines, who the providers are, and all of that. I don't think that this is kind of putting the cart before the horse. I think we, after doing all the BAC and stuff, have a pretty good idea about what the sites are out there.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think it's.
Well, don't I'm not jumping on you on this.
No, you're
saying
fine. It's a good
I would
conversation
feel
to
like
have.
it's my job that I have to poke holes in.
Sure.
Sure.
You know, in
The other thing-
any
Be a lawyer.
consultancy that we would bring in.
No, absolutely. And I mean, I just, from our standpoint, identifying those targets, we do get asked on a regular basis. And like I said, that site location consultant we met with, you know, one of the first questions she asked is, what are you targeting? And we're like, we don't know yet.
So how much of that target, back to push-pull again, how much of that target should be based on, let's say, the national and regional trends versus desire, right? That
Yeah.
is, and so therefore, I think our desire is somewhat defined. The national, regional trends are somewhat defined by Maricopa, Chesterfield, and other outlying areas. I guess I'm somewhat going down the same lines that, I don't know, we got a perfect opportunity for FinTech here. Obviously with healthcare, just across the border on 250, what's come in there, and what's kind of, as long as COPN doesn't kill us, with Medvara and potential expansion and so forth. Retirement, shelter in arms, you know, I don't know, it seems like some of it can already be defined, and then the hot trends, I mean, I don't know, of course everybody's vying for the hot trends right now, obviously. But I think with Amazon, with what we already have in West Creek, I think there's some very logical players that would wanna come in here that we can define and not have. I don't know, I don't, man.
Does that go back to your 2-digit versus 4-digit?
It does go back to the 2-digit versus 4-digit. A lot of the national regional 10s are, you're gonna see that 2-digit, the FinTech, but once you dive into that, you can find out more detail. There's, you know, FinTech related to CarMax. You know, CarMax has all sorts of new things coming out, and same with Cap One, they are considered FinTech. So it really does go from 2-digit to 4-digit when you look at someone like this who's gonna conduct that research. They just provide a more conclusive list and a more specific list of industry that you can then relate back to companies based on NAICS codes.
How much, do you have any idea how much contracting is awarded out of the Fed here in Goochland?
No idea.
Because I'm just wondering, the Fed contracts, some of the contracts that theoretically would come out of there, I mean, that's a whole business unto itself.
Yeah.
And
It is.
And it, well, yeah, I don't wanna get.
The only thing one last thing that I had on this was, it sort of goes back to your comment about who's gonna know Goochland better than us. You're absolutely right. We are gonna have heavy interaction with them, but one of the main reasons for this is we're more or less looking at this as staff augmentation as well. We do that, we do staff augmentation all the time in community development with public utilities. We can't do all the engineering needed for all the projects that are out there. We can't do all the building inspections needed, so we augment a lot. So Sarah and Casey, they're gonna, and the Pruitts and everyone at the state, we would know, you're right. We're gonna know more than somebody in Virginia Tech.
Well,
But
and I don't
to have
mean just
somebody-
you guys. I mean, you know, when you go on a business walk, your best guys are gonna be the guys who are here. They're gonna tell you what we don't have, what's not gonna be. I got a buddy, he would never be able to come here. You know, there are a lot, and sometimes I make it sound simple, and I know it's not. But I do think that an organic-based effort, probably to identify what we would think, because I'd rather a consultant to come in here and say, well, you guys have done a really good job, but here's where you're missing the boat, here, and here. You know, so, but they would probably accept, if we did a top 10, they'd say, you're right on the money on 7 of these.
Me go wrong with confidence?
Yeah. Anyway,
Great,
that's.
no, good, very good questions. Any others, or? Maybe
Well,
looking at the.
I'll tell you what, you come up with a list, I'll go over it, and then rip it apart, or then we can present it to them.
So what do y'all think about moving forward with this?
The only reason I asked all those questions is because the more prepared you are for a consultant coming in, the less, I mean, you know, if you have nothing, they're gonna give you whatever they want.
No, for
For
sure.
anyone who
we
consults
have,
here, I apologize, but I'm just saying that, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, I've done it, and if you
Yeah.
have a blank slate,
Yeah.
well, you know, you can miss the mark completely because we haven't really helped direct them to what we really, really would like. That's all right.
and that makes sense. We know anecdotally what we want. That's not the issue. We need the data behind it and driven down into more specifics. So we can't just go, we want fintech. They're like, that's not helpful. So, we will be able to tell them at the beginning of this contract, you know, these are the things, these are our existing businesses, these are the things that we already have, these are the things we think we want. Tell us if we're wrong.
What I'd like to know is, you know, if they come in here and they're experts at this, I would want to know counties in Virginia that we match to and counties regionally that we match to. So we can look at, you know, neighboring counties, watch their progress, see what they're doing relative to what we're doing. Eliminate the counties that are so far ahead of us or so far behind us that they don't, you know. I'd like to know where we are.
Are you thinking just in general, or like from?
Well, from whatever list we
population
come up,
size?
from an economic development standpoint, meaning a county that doesn't have a lot of sewer and water, a county that doesn't have a lot of necessary infrastructure,
Or
you
more
know.
rural in nature.
Yeah, you know. I mean, that's our
We can ask them
competition,
if they
right?
have-
It's not,
Yeah.
Yeah, we can ask them if they have any previous reports.
Has there, for example, ever been, relatively recently, any looking at a data center? In
Sounds
Goochland?
about right.
Looking at a data center in Goochland?
Yeah, I mean, we have a data center certified site by Dominion in West Creek.
But I mean, has anybody, any of the interested?
A lot of them are going in Hanover. That's where the pipeline is coming in from Virginia Beach. That you probably know more about it than I do, but I've sat through enough events to hear about this pipeline of internet, whatever you would like to call it, broadband coming in off Virginia Beach. It goes into Hanover County and then goes straight up to DC. So that's where the conglomerate of those are going, is Hanover, for that specific reason. If they're coming to the Richmond region, the majority of them are pushing towards DC. And that's one of those trends that's starting to push out some of the medium-sized companies out of DC because they can't afford labor there. They can't compete with an Amazon or something along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, I follow data center construction, and
Yep.
it's absolutely astounding. But I see, for several reasons, Goochland is the biggest problem is the cost of land. That
Yeah.
the infrastructure is trivial, you know, in a lot of ways. Plus, data centers don't move. You can't walk up and move them. But, I'm sorry, I'm getting off track, sorry.
That's okay.
So next steps with this.
We'd be looking for a motion. Oh, you asking us? We're looking for a motion, and I guess sort of since we're gonna talk to them and about the scope and maybe negotiate a little bit, hopefully get it down, but I guess the authority could make a motion of up to 7,500, is that about half? Knowing that we're gonna negotiate, and whenever it negotiates, whatever that 50% would be, if we can get them down, then it would be up to 7,500, and whatever that is below that. Does that sound fair? And I'm open to comments on that.
So you're expecting the EDA's portion to be 7,500?
Half, yeah.
Up to,
And the other half comes from the county.
Up to,
Mhm.
yeah, that'd be out of the ED budget.
How much time, what are they talking about, doing some hours? They,
4 months.
4 months.
Yeah, 4 months.
for 3, I was just looking at the amount of time for people time there. These are amounts of money, but it's roughly what, $8,500,
Mm.
and they're gonna spend, they're gonna do 4 months. $3,000 for grad assistant, 5,500 for the faculty.
Yeah, they don't have the unit cost on there.
Yeah.
If that's something you guys wanna see first, we're happy to ask them if we can get that.
Yeah, part of me says it's only $15,000, but I wonder what you're gonna get for that, really, that's the
Yeah.
thing, it's,
Like a big data dump.
Do you have samples of any other reports? that
That's
they've done?
exactly what I was gonna ask.
Yeah, we can send those out to you guys.
Yeah.
I'd love to see an actual, even if it doesn't have to be specific information, if they don't wanna release that, but some framework of what they intend to
Yeah.
deliver to us.
Is anyone prepared to make a motion?
How about if we just do that?
Let's get the
Do
reports.
some analysis before the next meeting, and we can put it back on the agenda then.
You okay with
Is that
us
fair?
tabling
Table it
it
to
for now?
March.
Or just, bring it back up in March, not a motion per se.
And in that time, we'll get those reports and we'll get those sent to you. And
I'd
they do
love
have-
for you guys to check in with maybe some of the, like VCU or somebody like
Sure.
that, and see if they have the same, see if they offer the same kind
Or
of.
if you have anybody else that we can talk to that's contracted with them as a referral,
referencing.
would be very helpful. I mean, at least you're dealing with Virginia Tech, so you know they're reputable, but still, you're dealing with Virginia Tech, so it's very bureaucratic, I don't really know exactly what we're gonna get as an outcome.
Sure.
We can do that.
Get, one-page list, or,
Yeah, we'll get those reports out to you, and also their scope, it's only 1 page, but it's on page 2. But if you want to look at that, if you see anything that sticks out, like we don't need that, but we need something else, let us know. But I think the big tell is gonna be the reports when we get that to you, so you can look at them as a go by.
Okay,
Yeah, we're happy to do that.
alright, we'll bring that back up in March. Alright, moving on to the Notch Hotel revision to the performance agreement.
Madam Chair, I was actually approached by the owner of County and Hospitality probably about a month or 2 ago, Nick Patel. This is just a quick backstory. In April of 2019, the EDA approved the performance agreement. I believe the board of supervisors ended up approving it in June, just a few months later, to incentivize the first hotel in the county. The owner of County and Hospitality contacted me and said, hey, there's been weather delays, construction delays, and I've actually been heavily involved with our building inspections department out there at the site, and I've actually witnessed a lot of this stuff myself, but they asked for a 3-month extension on the agreement. It's supposed to be, they're supposed to have their full investment numbers by the end of March. They don't think they're gonna hit that. Well, he's positive he's not gonna hit that, so he's asking for an extension of 3 months. He feels he can comfortably be within that 3 months, but they're looking at the end of June as a total investment date, and which would actually push their job investment date from September to the end of December. So there's actually 2 dates we're talking about. The actual agreement is in your packet, and if there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer. Oh, sorry, we did, because this was sort of unique, and I talked to Mr. Badesky about it, he wanted to actually gain the board feedback on this to see if they had any, because even if it's approved here, the board saw us approved to see if they had any feedback, and they said they were generally supportive of it, but obviously it's got to go through you the authority first. But they were generally supportive, but just wanted to let you know that.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the First Amendment to the performance agreement for the Notch facility.
A second.
And has our council looked at this, do you know?
Yeah.
No.
No, well, Tara McGee, this was right before, when this first came in, was right before we had Michael on board, Mr. Gonzon. Tara McGee actually looked at it and looked it over.
Well, I'm not a lawyer, I'm an engineer, I understand math. So, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it from a non-legal or even legal standpoint, so. And I think they're doing good due diligence to come forth with this anyway, so.
Well, and having you been so intricately involved and knowing what their issues have been, makes me more confident in extending it. Is there any other discussion?
Yeah.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Abstention?
No, aye.
Okay, it passes.
That gets us as the BBI.
All right, any other new business?
Yes.
Okay.
List.
Oh my gosh, y'all have been so busy.
We have, I'll fly through it. So we've crafted an incentive program policy right now. We submitted it to Board of Supervisors at 2x2s. They had a lot of comments. So you'll hopefully see something potentially in the March meeting. We'll bring it to you for review and discussion.
We'll do our best to try and send it to you beforehand, so you can have a chance to look at it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, they had some questions on, just to let you know, that is broadband a part of it? We had the Tuckahoe Creek Service District referenced in a few different sections, and they said, hey, why don't we just kind of pull that forward into more of a general conditions statement? So those were some of the comments that they had, so we made a lot of adjustments on that format. But
And it will be a consistently updated document. So right now we have a generic list of industries in there that we would target. We took out the ones we didn't, very 2-digit level NAICS codes. But if we do a study and it tells us something different, we can add those in or take something out, etc. We are moving offices in a week and a half. Wow. So ideally our March meeting will be in the new building. Okay?
Wow.
If all goes as planned. We are hosting a hospitality boot camp on February 26th. So we've sent out an invite to our businesses that are geared towards hospitality, the breweries, the restaurants, Drive Shack. This stems from Sarah and I were looking at kind of our new businesses coming in, Sheltering Arms, Drive Shack, the Tuckahoe Pines, and they all kind of had this hospitality, customer service, dealing with food kind of similarities. So we talked to CCWA, and so we're meeting with our existing businesses on February 26th to kind of talk through what that program would look like. The idea would be to hopefully enhance some folks who are in the hospitality industry. They would come out of this program with 4 certifications, and then we would end it with job interviews with actual employers. So we're meeting with them on February 26th. Mannequin Town got approved earlier this month, so that is moving forward. 93,000 square feet of retail and office and 245 residential units. So that'll give us some more retail and office space to recruit to, which will
for
be
the
awesome.
spot, for the farmer's market still.
Yes.
That's
For my
the-
spot.
Yep, keep the spot.
And then I currently have 18 active projects. When I first pulled this was 17, so I've had a new project come on. We're having lots of interest. The biggest thing is that limited space. So that is new business.
And Madam Chair, they get together next week?
Yes.
What
The
was-
GLE?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
The 26th. We have a presentation prepared. It's very similar to the one that we just gave you, but pared down a little bit. And also geared towards some of the services that we offer existing businesses that Casey, Todd, and I are prepared to go through, and hopefully with your input as well, and whatever presentation you have.
I'd love to have you do it again. You've done a great job.
Big words, but, yeah, I'll put a suit on, no sandals.
And socks.
No, never socks with sandals, that's just wrong.
Don't tell my husband that. Okay, great.
But
So.
it basically is the same as what was up there?
For existing business update, real quick, I've met with 6 businesses last month. I reached out to a lot of them and got them in. So that was fun. Hope to continue that trend. I had notified a lot of our food and beverage businesses about an upcoming Virginia Food and Beverage Convention that's going to be held in March at the Convention Center. It's put on by VDAX, and it's held every 2 years. So I don't know if any of them took me up on the offer for them to have a vendor booth there, but so Casey and I will be attending there, and I believe you're going as well. Yeah,
scheduled to go.
yeah. So that'll be good. And then I'm working with Comcast actively, getting them into the Oilville Business Park. My business walk, when I went out, a lot of them said we need Comcast here, and so they've got approval from VDOT to cross 64. And what they're telling me now is that won't be at any cost to the businesses. So just sign up, sign a contract, and pay your monthly bills. So I'm hoping that is what happens, and that's what comes through. So I'll have more information on that moving forward. But if so, that would be a huge benefit to a lot of the businesses out there that didn't have high-speed internet. And so.
Just out of curiosity, is Brewer still doing stuff out there?
He is. He has his own
Yes.
internet, and he is not able to serve all of the businesses that are out there at a price that the businesses want to pay. So there you go.
Understood.
And also, I'm working for some home-based businesses off of Turner Road, trying to get Comcast to extend a little further. So it's an ongoing function. And we talked about GLE. Yeah, that's all I have for existing business.
Okay. In other business, the Virginia Industrial Development Authority's training, was there anybody else that was interested in possibly attending that?
Yeah, and ironically, it's put on by Virginia Tech. So maybe you can learn more about them there. But we do have a little brochure. I think I sent out information on that. Chair Dearden said that she was possibly interested in attending, so I didn't know if anybody else was. And it does conflict with our May EDA meeting, so how that would work if more than one of you wanted to go. But
Is it on site?
it is at the Hotel Roanoke.
Which is really nice. That's where the iConference was last year.
Yeah. So there would be hotel and then registration cost.
Does it have a time when it ends on the second day?
And not on this, but I think it had I don't think their agenda was posted yet for it, so.
I mean, I would really like to attend it, but my workload at that time might be prohibitive.
It's not something that we need to know now.
Okay.
So, if
All
you
right.
find that you're interested in the
Okay.
next couple months, yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Any other business? All right, then we're gonna go into closed session. I need to read this before we go into closed session. In accordance with the provisions of sections 2.2-3711 and 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia, I move that the Gucci County Economic Development Authority convene a closed meeting for the purpose of discussion of a prospective business or industry for the expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the business or industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community, and for consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff members or consultants pertaining to actual or probable litigation where such consultation or briefing in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the public body as permitted by section 2.2-3711, section A1, and section 2.2-3711A7 of the Code of Virginia.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.